Hi everyone, welcome back to Spooky Easy. I'm Jessie, your spooky storyteller extraordinaire, back at it again to bring you some more scary tales. What's going on with this weather? I don't understand. First it was snowing and now it's like summer again. I don't understand it. Only in Canada, eh? I hope that you liked my last two videos that I did for Halloween. It was so much fun to record them, but honestly, it was actually quite taxing to do 2 videos a week. So from now on, pretty sure I'm gonna be doing only one video a week. But who knows? I might change my mind. In any case, I was quite inspired today to do a Let's Read simply because we have our first story submission submitted to me by one of our viewers. And it really did inspire me because of the line of work that I'm in. Long story short, I'm basically in customer service. What that means is that I talk to customers all day, trying to resolve issues as much as I possibly can, and overall just give a better experience to our customers. Yes, it's hard work. Yes, it's always interesting, but at least it keeps me on my toes and I'm always mentally stimulated by it. This being said, I do work in an office environment, and this story that I received from one of our viewers, they also work in an office environment, and it really inspired me to do a Let's Read of haunted work stories. And it's very interesting to delve into these kinds of stories just because it is so relatable to me, to others that are in the office, especially if you work after hours by yourself. You're kind of like, what was that creaking? Was that creaking always there? Kind of has you wondering. So please enjoy this Let's Read video. I can't wait to get into it. I kind of miss doing these, to be honest. I've been kind of delving into little different things to do for the channel, but it's always good to go back to the basics. Even though it felt pretty warm today, I'm still going to drink what I have been craving for the past few weeks because of the slightly cooler weather. I mean, even though it was warm in the daytime, it is a little bit chillier in the nighttime, so it totally calls for this kind of drink. Today's drink of choice will be a hot toddy made by my husband, director, and you know the rest. I'm going to put a recipe in the description below so you know how to make it. There's several different ways to make a hot toddy, but the way that we decided to go about it was by combining some apple cider, some Dewar's whiskey. We decided to go with Dewar's this time, some cinnamon sticks, and a little bit of honey, as well as a little bit of lemon if you want, just to give it a little bit of tartness, and heat it up, and it's super delicious. Perfect for a chilly fall or winter evening. And it's like I mentioned the other week when I was doing my other video that I do drink whiskey when I'm having a little bit of indigestion. I try to drink whiskey as much as I possibly can for medicinal purposes, both mental and physical. Come on now, children, don't bother mama, she needs her medicine. But do keep in mind that if you don't drink, that's no problem at all. You've seen me drink before, some ginger ale, some hot chocolate. By all means, if you don't drink alcohol, you can for sure drink coffee or tea, water, milk, juice, whatever you want. At Spooky Easy, as long as it's a drink, it's allowed. That being said, I hope you have your drink ready because I got some stories here ready for you. Let's get into it. Cheers to you. This first story comes from our viewer, so please enjoy. This is a true story for those who do not believe in the paranormal. This happened in 2012. I was working in my office building after hours when I saw a huge black bird that looked like a crow flying outside, and it landed just outside of the window of the particular office room that I was working in. It was screaming among the trees, making these terrible, very loud screeching sounds. It was a very large black bird, not like a normal crow or raven. It would fly, and its wingspan was like nothing I had ever seen before. There is a superstition of the native people of my country that I heard when I was younger, that if a crow screams like this, someone will die very soon. For several days, I heard this bird screaming, always in the same window, always the same one crow. One day, that same week, I came to work only to find sympathy funeral wreaths placed everywhere in that office to honor an office worker that had just passed away. I was in shock. I was speaking to my coworker about how surprised we were, and also about the native superstition, when suddenly all the curtains on the window started to shake violently. We ran out of there as quickly as we could. Every time we entered that office after that, we prayed for protection. What made our nerves even worse was that they put the photo of the dead coworker in the same office. So if you hear a screaming crow, do not take it lightly. Take that as a warning. I've heard of such superstitions before. It's very common that in the native culture, a crow or a raven is some kind of, I would say, like a messenger. I don't want to say an omen because it doesn't necessarily always mean an omen, but that's what they're most famous for. That being said, I do watch a lot of Animal Planet as well, and ravens and crows are actually incredibly intelligent. So if any bird are going to know anything, it's those ones. They know what's up. That story, as compelling as it was, is very similar to some of these other stories that I had managed to dig up on Reddit. The Reddit thread itself is called Haunted Work Stories, and as always, I'll put the thread in the description below. So check it out because there's plenty of those kinds of stories and you can feel free to check them out. This next story is by somebody called divided_by_0. It doesn't have a title per se, but it goes a little something like this. I'm 40 now, but in 1995, I worked part-time at a Hallmark card store in a mall that was built in the 70s. One night, me and two girls I worked with had to stay and do inventory. It was just a few days before Christmas, so it was very important that it was very accurate no matter how long it took. In our back room, there is a door that leads to the access hallways that lead outside, and further down the hallway was a storage unit that was like this cage-like enclosure that we had a key to. While the two girls did inventory in the store, I was assigned to inventory what was in that storage. So I'm inside the storage area and I hear them both scream and come running down the hallway. They're in hysterics, telling me to come back to the store because they saw something that scared them. I'm like, okay. I'm a dude, so I guess they felt better having me there. They get back to the store and they are pointing in the corner where they swear they saw an old man in a suit looking at them. I was like, okay, whatever. We need to get this inventory done. How about I stay here and do the store while you two do inventory in the storage unit? You two will finish it faster and then you can come join me and we'll all finish the store together. That seemed to calm them down. They left the store and I picked up where they left off. And suddenly I got the weirdest feeling that I wasn't alone. I thought one of them had come back for something because it just felt like someone was with me. I started getting a little creeped out, but before long I was in the zone and making good progress. I forgot all about the creepy feeling, and by the time they got back, I was nearly done. At this point, it was about 2 a.m. and we were all a little loopy and tired. They asked me if I saw anything and I said no, but right then, one of the girls grabbed my arm really hard and her eyes went wide. She said, "Look, look, look." I turned and sure enough, I saw the old man just standing there. He didn't look mad or happy or sad or anything. He just looked blank. I didn't get a bad feeling from him, but the girls were flipping out. One of them called the owner and she told them to lock up and go home. A couple of days later, I was working a shift with the owner and she asked me about what happened, to describe who we saw. I did and she goes, "Yep, that's my dad." I don't understand how some of these people's reactions are so blasé. It's flabbergasting to me. She showed me a picture of her with him when she was younger and I was just floored. I said, "Yes, that's him." I worked there for another 3 or 4 months and would sometimes feel his presence like I did that one night, but it was always more of a curious and playful vibe more than anything. I'll never forget it. I used to work in a mall before when I was younger as well, and I gotta tell you, the feeling after hours in any environment, especially when it's supposed to be so crowded with people and when it's empty, it just feels that much more unsettled, if that makes sense. I think it's just because it's so vast and there's so many echoes. It's just like you get that kind of prickly feeling in the back of your neck and you're just kind of like, am I really alone? Let me finish my work and get out of here quick. This next one is called I Want to Believe, and it's by a user on Reddit called DK1701. It's a pretty minor incident, but I always make sure to talk about it when training new hires. I work overnight security in a metro area hospital. As part of our usual duties, we walk the floors of the office buildings on campus. One night I was doing my checks and was on the 9th level of one of the buildings. I'd opened a stairwell to make sure it was locked. They locked from the inside. And so I closed it and continued on my way. About halfway down the hall, I hear the distinct sound of the door handle being jiggled. It made the same sound as it does when I had checked that it was locked. Thinking someone was trying to exit the floor and knowing no one was supposed to be there, I went back and opened it up, ready to call for backup to help with an intruder. I opened the doors and there was no one there. I looked down the stairwell and saw and heard nothing. So I again made sure it was locked and pulled the door closed. Again, about 20 seconds later, I heard the door being rattled. I noped the hell out of there and I feel really off when I have to go up there now. Once again, it's always when you're by yourself that these situations always tend to happen. I don't know about you, but whenever any kind of supernatural experience ever happened to me, it always made me feel stupid. And when I say stupid, not that like I don't know anything or whatever, it's not like that. What I mean to say is I'm quite a logical person. So when I see something like, for example, this person, they were sure they saw no one when they had checked that there was nobody there after they heard the door rattling. They closed it, made sure it was locked. They were on their way and again, the door was rattling. It made no sense to them. When things like this would happen to me, I would be like, it does not compute. And especially when it's a place that's so familiar to you, like work or even at home, it just makes it 10 times worse because it's like, wait a second, I know I put my glass there. I know that I put my phone there. Where is it? Like, I know that I put it there. Just kind of makes you feel a little bit crazy. For our last story, it's from another Reddit user named Button on My Back. It goes a little something like this. My dad had a weird experience once when he was in his early 20s. He had an office job in a building in the city. The building had 5 stories and his office was on the 4th. He had just got a promotion when this incident happened and unfortunately had to stay late a lot of nights to finish up his work. One evening, he was staying late and finally finished his work around 11 p.m. He locked up the office and headed downstairs, said goodbye to the security guard and left. The next day, he had come in and found out the building had been broken into. The police took my dad outside and began questioning him. He told them about staying late and how he definitely locked up and everything. Then my dad asked about the security guard and where the guard was at during all this. The cop gave him a strange look and then went and got my dad's boss, who came over and asked my dad what he was talking about. The cop asked the boss if the building had a security guard, and the boss shook his head and said that they used to, but the security guard had died a week ago, and they hadn't hired another one yet. My dad was understandably shocked by this. He had definitely spoken to the very real guard who had worked there for years. He didn't even know the guard had died. Nobody had informed him yet. Also, the person who had broken in ended up being a disgruntled former employee who had been fired a couple months prior. He told the police that he chose that particular time to break in because he knew the security guard had just passed away. So it would be easy to just break in without worrying about being apprehended. Again, my dad said the guard was very real looking, not hazy in any way. The guard looked like how he always looked and seemed genuinely content. This story still gives me chills to think about. I don't blame you. Obviously a very concerning story, especially because it's just day to day. It's every day that you're going in, going out, kind of similar to my previous video that I was reviewing, that first video where it seemed just like an office worker was going home at the end of a long day. It's just something that you do every day, and obviously the security guard must have worked for the company for a really long time because he was just doing what he always did, sat there making sure everything was secure, and I guess he just didn't clock out. What about you? Do you have any stories like this where you are at work and something inexplicable happens? I know I have plenty. I used to work on a cruise ship, and funny story, I used to sleep right next to a morgue. You want to hear more about that? Please let me know. I got plenty of stories from that room. But I do want to hear about your stories as well. If you have also any suggestions as to what you want to hear next, I'm all ears. I love talking about anything creepy, anything spooky, anything thought-provoking. You know, by all means, let me know. For now, that's it for this episode. Until next week, I'm so glad that you decided to join me, and thank you very much for subscribing to me if you already have. If you haven't, please hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell so you can stay tuned to all the scary tales. I can't wait to see you next time. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Ciao for now.
Any ideas?
My name is Jessie, your I'll put a recipe of the drink below in the comment. No. I'm so stupid.